أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا محمد. Again, I'm very honored to be here in your presence, and to be honest, these days and these nights is very great for me. And may Allah give you more tawfiq to be at the service of Ahlul Bayt and Quran, insha'Allah ta'ala. The topic of tonight is Ilmul Rijal and Ilmul Dirayah. You know, in the eyes of Imamiyya scholars, there are 4 sources in jurisprudence, in Ilmul Fiqh: Quran, Hadith, Ijma', and Aql. So today, the morning, I briefly discuss about the function of Aql in jurisprudence and the role of Aql. Now today I'm going to speak about the second sources of ijtihad, the second tools of ijtihad, which is hadith. You know, the ulama of hadith can be divided in 2 classifications: mutaqaddimin and mutaakhirin, early scholars and later scholars. As we have 2 classifications in Ilmul Fiqh, the fuqaha can be divided in 2 classifications: the early fuqaha and the later fuqaha. In terms of Ilmul Rijal and in terms of hadith, the ulamas before Sayyid ibn Tawus was named early scholars, nearly 7 centuries. And the ulama after Sayyid ibn Tawus is called later scholars, mutaakhirin. So what is the difference between these 2 types of ulama? Why do we divide them in 2 classifications, the ulama of mutaqaddimin and the ulama of mutaakhirin? The answer is that before Sayyid ibn Tawus, the yardstick for assessment of hadith was different in the eyes of mutaqaddimin and in the eyes of mutaakhirin. In the eyes of mutaqaddimin, the yardstick was al-qara'in al-dakhiliyah, and the yardstick for hadith was al-qara'in al-kharijiyah. What does it mean? Before Sayyid ibn Tawus, the ulama of hadith, they had access to the very, very authentic books, such as Kutub Arba'imi'ah, such as the book which was confirmed and was signed by Imam alayhi salam. Imam alayhi salam saw a book and said, Allah, may Allah, rahimahullah, the author of this book. So Imam confirmed the authenticity of book. So in the eyes of early scholars, the yardstick only qat'iyyus sudur, if they were aware that this hadith sadara anil imam, they consider this hadith authentic, whether the narrator is reliable or the narrator is not reliable, because they had a source. The source was Kutub Usul Arba'imi'ah. If they took hadith from Kutub Usul Arba'imi'ah, of the book which was confirmed by Imam, so they say there is no need to assess the qualities, the features of narrator. But after Sayyid ibn Tawus, these ghara'in, these signs were shrinking. So after Sayyid ibn Tawus, they say we don't have any qarineh for the assessment of hadith. So they try to establish another method, another yardstick for assessment of hadith. So they try to assess the authenticity of any hadith by its narrator. So before Sayyid ibn Tawus, the quality of narrator was not important. But after Sayyid ibn Tawus, no, it was important, because they try, that's fine, because they try to assess the quality of narrator, the quality of hadith by the narrator. So just I would like to explain the difference between early scholars and later scholars. In the eyes of early scholars, the quality of narrators is not important. This hadith sadara an al-imam, whether the narrator were reliable or not reliable. But in the eyes of, in the time of mutaakhirin, they said we don't have such sign, we don't have such qara'in. So they try to assess the authenticity of hadith by the features of narrator. So I'm going to explain the general overview of ilm al-rijal, which is so important from the time of Sayyid ibn Tawus, rahmatullah alayh. So I began our topic was this beautiful hadith. Muhammad ibn Yaqub, Shaykh Kulayni, born in 258. And Muhammad ibn Yahya, and Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Isa, and Ali ibn Nu'man, and Abi Usameh. قال سمعت أبا عبد الله عليه السلام يقول كونوا دعاة إلى أنفسكم بغير ألسنتكم. Try to propagate the people, do tabligh by your act, not by your tongue. كونوا لنا زينا ولا تكونوا علينا ولا تكونوا شينا, in some narration ولا تكونوا علينا شينا. So I don't want to save the time. As you see, brothers and sisters, the hadith consists of two parts. The first part is chain, and the second part is text. What is the definition of chain? Chain consists of several people, which shows how Shaykh Kulayni has achieved this hadith. How did he get? So Shaykh Kulayni says, I got this hadith from Muhammad ibn Yahya. And Muhammad ibn Yahya has got this hadith from Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Isa. As you see, each narration consists of two parts, chain and text. A chain consisting of several narrators serve as a channel which show the conductive to the text. So as you see in the slide, this chain, there are narrators. Through this chain, we reach the hadith. Now, look at the hadith again. If we want to reach the authenticity of this hadith, what should we do? I'm talking in the times of later scholars, not early scholars. As I said, in the time of early scholar, the yardstick was the existence of hadith in authentic book. But there is no any sign of the authentic book at the moment. Kutub Usul Arba'ah does not exist. Our first hadith book is Kitab Kulayni, Kitab Kafi for Shaykh Kulayni, Rizwanullah Ta'ala. If we want to assess this hadith, what should we do? We should take at least 3 steps. When we take these 3 steps, then we can realize that this hadith is authentic. The first step is that we have to evaluate each ring of chain separately and individually. For example, in the chain of hadith, they were 5 people. They were 5 persons. We have to investigate them individually. We have to talk to them individually. Second one, in the second step, we have to evaluate the chain as a whole. We have to evaluate the chain as a whole. In number 1, we evaluate the chain separately. We took each rein out and we are going to assess each ring. So this ring is okay, we put it back. We take the second ring, is it okay? We put back. But in the second step, we have to assess the chain as a whole. And in the third step, we have to evaluate the text. In the third step, we have to evaluate the text. Now, let's make it more clear. In the first step, we are going to assess, we are going to look at each ring separately. So what should we do? We have to look at the biographical account of each person individually. For example, in the first, Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Isa. So we are going to take this ring. So we are going to ask his question. So who he was, to know his identity, his teacher, his student, the time and the place which he flourished. Is it important to know his teacher? Is it important to know his student? Yes, in many cases it's important. Why? Because sometimes we don't know who is Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Isa. We don't know. But through his teacher or through his student, we can recognize him, when and where he was born. So knowing the teacher, mashayikh, and student is very important in order to recognize this person. Second question, to know his belief, to whether the narrator was from the Shia school of thought or not. If he was the school of Shia, was he from the Imamiyya or another sect? It's important yardstick in the first step. Again, we are going to understand the level of his wabt, how his memory was. Does he have a good memory or weak memory? When he heard the hadith, did he pass the hadith as he got it, or sometime he paraphrased it in a wrong way? Did he change the meaning when he got the hadith from Imam or from the previous person? So as you see, wabt, or a good memory, is important in authenticity of hadith. And moreover, the identity of narrator's behavior, moral qualities, trustworthiness, reputation, and trustfulness. So in the first step, we are going to take each ring, Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Musa, Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Isa, we are going to look at these features: his teacher, his student, his belief, his reputation, his dhabt, he is adil or not adil, reliable or not reliable. So, what is the name of this science? This science, or this is the job of the ulama of Ilm al-Rijal. So in Ilm al-Rijal, we are going to take each ring and discuss them and find out the biographical account, and this is the definition, and this is the job of Ilm al-Rijal. So Ilm al-Rijal can be defined as a discipline which discuss the hadith narrator's specific qualities, such as trustworthiness, truthfulness, and dhabt, in order to determine their reliability. These qualities play an essential role in acceptance or rejection of hadith. If someone is so okay, but he has a problem for having a good memory, of course, it makes the hadith weak. So if someone is, for example, from the followers of other sect, okay, it can be a negative point. If someone, he is very reliable, he is very thiqh, he is very truthful, so of course, is a positive narrator. So, just I would like to add, in the first step, we are going to ask important question. But some question is not important in Ilm al-Rijal. For example, was he, for example, tall or short? Was he skinny or fat? So this question does not relate for the scholars of Ilm al-Rijal. The question which plays a great role in acceptance or the rejection of hadith. Now, suppose that we took the first step and we successfully evaluate these 5 people: Muhammad ibn Yaqub Kulayni, Muhammad ibn Yahya, Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Isa, Ali ibn Nu'man, and Abi Usama. All of these 5 or 6 people, alhamdulillah, they have a good memory, good reputation, good behavior, very truthful, very thiqh, very adil. Can we consider this hadith authentic? Can we consider this hadith reliable? No. We have to take the second step. So the first step is the duty of Ilm al-Rijal. In Ilm al-Rijal, we are going to look at the biographical account of each narrator separately. In the second step, we are going to check the consistency of the chain, whether this chain is strong or not, whether these rings connected to each other or not connected. Is it a missing chain in this chain or not? On many occasions, there is a missing chain, but we are not aware. We think, oh, the chain is strong, but if someone is expert in Ilm al-Rijal, he realized that no, there is a missing chain. So in the second step, we are going to look at the chain as a whole. We are going to do like that. Is it strong or not strong? So in the second step, we are going to consider the consistency, the consistency and stability of the chain as a whole. The level of the consistency of chain may increase the validity of hadith, the validity of texts, and vice versa. If the chain is not consistent, if the chain is not coherent, of course, it can affect the consistency of hadith. So, question comes to your mind, how do we know the consistency of the text? Or the consistency of text depends on what element? Number 1, did the narrator quote the text from Imam or his companion? If the first person narrates from Imam, it makes the chain strong. But if the first narrator narrates from Sahabe, no, it's not as strong as the first one. Or number 2, if the narrator narrates from Imam, did he mention the name of Imam or he did not mention the name of Imam? If he mentioned the name of Imam, it shows the high level of consistency of the chain as a whole. But if he did not mention, he says Anhu. Who is Anhu? Anhu refers to whom? I'm going to give an example. In number 3, how did the narrator in the chain of hadith receive the text from each other? How the first person received the hadith from the second person? The second person, how did he receive from the third person? And the third person, how did he receive the hadith from the fourth person? So they are so important. So did they receive the text from each other directly or indirectly? Did he receive the hadith through the letter or did he receive through the hearing? This is important. If the second person received the hadith through the muqatabah in the letter, so it shows it's not as strong as if you hear the hadith bil mushafaha from the previous one. And number 5, are then all the narrator of the chain as a whole are imami? If 5 of them are imami, high level of consistency, all of them trustworthy, all of them has a good memory, of course, is so in the best level. But if 2 of them is imami, 2 of them are not non-imami, or 2 of them has a good memory, 1 of them has weak memory. So as you see, the consistency of a chain depends on this element. All of them should be imami. All of them should be good reputation. All of them should have a good memory. If the chain lacks one of these features, it loses its consistency. So, conclusion. If all the narrator in the chain of hadith are imami, just, accurate, dhabit, and receive the hadith from an imam, mentioning his name, this shows a high level of consistency and coherence of the chain. And as a result, it increased the level of the authenticity of this hadith. As you see, we took a two-step, we have to take two steps. In the first step, we are going to interview these 5 people individually. Then we are going to look at the chain as a whole. Now, let's look at this hadith. Is the chain consistent or not? And Husayn ibn Saeid al-Ahwadi, he narrates an Hammad ibn Hurayz and Zurarah. Zurarah is a famous Sahaba of Imam al-Sadiq, and some ahadith of Qa'idah Istishab is from Zurarah. قال قلت له الرجل ينام وهو على وضوء. Someone is sleeping while he performed wuzu before. So let's say, in terms of the consistency of the chain of hadith, is it okay? I'm asking one of the audience, is it okay? If the chain is consistent, why? Ahsan, قلت له. He does not mention the name of Imam. Says قلت له. Pardon? However, I told him. Who is him? Imam or someone else? Let's look at another example. أخبرنا أحمد بن إدريس قال حدثنا. What is the difference between أخبرنا and حدثنا? It depends on علم الدراية. So we don't want to discuss. There is a small difference between أخبرنا and حدثنا. قال حدثنا أحمد بن محمد عن محمد بن يونس عن رجل عن أبي عبد الله في قول الله تبارك وتعالى فانظرني إلى يوم يبعثون. So we are looking at the chain of this hadith. Is it consistent? No. Why? Because in the says an rajulin. Who is this rajul? Because we as a mujtahid, we have to look at the chain of hadith. Okay, you go and check Ahmad ibn Idris, he's okay. Ahmad ibn Muhammad, he's okay. Muhammad ibn Yunus, he's okay. But who is rajul? How can I understand? How can I recognize its biographical account? So this hadith become mursal. This hadith, in terms of consistency, is weak. So it can affect the validity of hadith. So in the second step, as I said, we have to look at the chain as the consistency. Now, we take the first step successfully. And alhamdulillah, we take the second step successfully. No. Can we rely on this hadith? Can act upon this hadith? No. Still, we have to take a third step. What is the third step? The third step, we have to evaluate the text. We have to look at the text as a matn. So if we take the first step and we take the second step, so we have to take the third step. What is the third step? Is the text clear or not clear? In terms of textual clarity, is the text coherent? The text, the matn, is coherent? Is it clear? Is there any ambiguity? Is there any consistency between the text of this hadith and the text of another hadith? Is there any inconsistency between text and Quran or not? So as you are aware, the consistency of text, the clarity of text is so important. So we have to look at the lexical ambiguity or semantic ambiguity. So for example, look at this hadith. One day, this hadith is mentioned in the book of our brothers in Ahl Sunnah. The hadith says, إنكم سترون ربكم كما ترون هذا القمر. One day the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in the half of, when the moon was full, the Prophet addressed the moon and said, إنكم سترون ربكم. You will see your Lord كما ترون هذا القمر, as you are, can you see this moon? So imagine, we took the first step successfully. We took the second step successfully. Can we rely on this hadith? No, because there is a lexical ambiguity. So, kama tarawna means kama tarawna by your eyes, or kama tarawna by your inner eyes. So we don't know what's the meaning of hadith. We don't know. Of course, we have to look at the Quran. Lan tarani, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told to Musa, you cannot see me. Allah cannot be seen, not only in this world, even the akhirat. So this hadith, as I said, this hadith is it can be lacks of the consistency of text. Look at this, the second hadith. Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Isa عن حسن بن محبوب عن عباد بن صهيب قال سمعت أبا عبد الله يقول لا يصلي المتيمم بقوم متوضئين. And look at the second hadith. محمد بن أحمد بن يحيى عن محمد بن عبد الحميد عن أبي جميلة عن أسامة عن أبي عبد الله في الرجل يجنب وليس معه ماء وهو إمام القوم قال نعم يتيمم. He performed tayammum and he can be imam. So if you look at the text of these two hadiths, as you see, there is an inconsistency. In the second hadith, it says if the imam cannot perform ghusl, he can do tayammum and lead the jama'at. But in the first hadith, Imam said, لا يصلي المتيمم. If the audience, if the people performing wuzu, the imam which he performed tayammum, he cannot lead the prayer. So as you see, there is a contradiction between the text of first hadith and the second hadith, and it shows the inconsistency of the text, not in the chain. It shows inconsistency in the chain. In summary, in the second step and third step, we need to evaluate the consistency of the chain as a whole and the clarity of the text. It's worth noting that these two steps are treated in Ilm al-Dirayah. So the duty of Ilm al-Dirayah is second step and the third step. So in Ilm al-Dirayah, we look at the chain as a whole, and we look at the text as a clarity and coherence. So whose goal is to analyze and evaluate narration from two angles: consistency of the chain as a whole, and the textual clarity and coherence. So what is the definition of Ilm al-Dirayah? The definition of Ilm al-Dirayah becomes clear for us. Ilm al-Dirayah analyzes the hadith from two angles: the consistency of the chain and textual clarity and coherence. The consistency of chain depends on a number of elements, such as a complete and uninterrupted line of narrators linking back to the Imam, through whom they are considered trustworthy, truthful, and dhabit. And the second element, the textual clarity, depends on the other things, so, as I mentioned in the text. So this is what we mention here. So the first step is the duty of Ilm al-Rijal, and second step and the third step is the duty of Ilm al-Dirayah. I think my time is over. I have plenty of material to continue, but I want to. So what's my time? How? Question answer. So we start question answer. Okay, just 2 minutes regarding Ilm al-Rijal. the majority of ulama of Imamiyya, they believe ilm al-rijal is necessary. Without ilm al-rijal and without ilm al-dirayah, faqih cannot rely on hadith. However, Akhbari group, they believe that there is no need for ilm al-rijal. The ulama of Akhbari, they say there is no need for ilm al-rijal. So they have nearly 12 arguments which is mentioned in Rijali books. One of them, which I mentioned today in a question and answer, they say Kutub Arba'ah, especially of Kutub Kitab Kulaini Rahmatullah Alayh, they are authentic. So Shaykh Kulaini assessed the hadith and put in his book. So why are you studying Ilm al-Rijal? You are going to select the authentic hadith. Shaykh Kulaini has done this job. He says whatever he collected, it is Sahih. As Shaykh Kulaini mentioned in the biography of his book, he says, Al-Akhbar al-Sahiha min al-Sadiqin. He says all the ahadith of book is Sahih. As I said, Sahih has two meanings. Sahih in the times of early scholars means Sadara an al-Ma'sum, Qat'i al-Sudur. Definitely the hadith issued by Imam. Sahih in the eyes of Mutaakhirin means the narrator are truthful, Imami, such and such. Hujjatun bayni wa bayn Allah. So if you take these two possible meaning, min qat'i sudur, all the ahadith of Kafi is qat'i sudur in the eyes of early scholars, or all the ahadith of Kafi is hujjah, means hujjatun baynana wa bayn Allah. If you take this meaning or the second meaning, still we need ilm al-rijal. First of all, just very briefly, Shaykh Kulaini Rahmatullah Alayh never said all the ahadith of book is qat'i sudur. Why? Because in the Kafi, Shaykh Kulaini mentioned if two hadiths contradict each other, what should we do? So it shows that amongst the narration there are two contradicted hadiths, and he is telling us the rule how can we reconcile two contradicting hadiths. So when Shaykh Kulaini gives us a tool, when two hadiths contradict each other, it shows that all the ahadith of Kafi are not qat'i sudur. Moreover, many ulamas, Shaykh Saduq or the other scholars, they weaken some ahadith of Kafi. If you believe the second interpretation, all the ahadith of Kafi, hujjatun baynaha wa bayn Allah, that's fine. It shows that the ahadith of Kafi was hujjah in the eyes of Kulaini and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But another faqih, another mujtahid, he should say, I'm going to assess again. It might be the yardstick which Kulaini selected this ahadith as a sahih. I do not agree with this yardstick. The methodology which Shaykh Kulaini selected this ahadith and compiled in his book, I might do not agree. For example, in the eyes of Shaykh Kulaini, for example, the faith is so important. It might be one of the elements like dhabit is not important, but in the eyes of other scholars, no, dhabit is important. The narrator should have a good memory. So this is the reason why one hadith can be sahih in the eyes of one mujtahid, and another mujtahid consider this hadith non-sahih or da'if. Why? Because the yardstick for evaluation of a hadith can be different. Of course, I mentioned many things, but let's say we go to question and answer. I'm at your service.